What's up, everybody? I think this is live on LinkedIn, but I don't know. Today with us on the Behind the Food podcast, this is our first live episode. I have Joe Rotondo and then Drew. Drew, how do I pronounce your last name so I don't
Weirdo.
butcher it? What was it?
DiSpirito?
DiSpirito. Cool. And I have my co-host, obviously, Daniel.
What's up, guys?
Super pumped to have you guys on the podcast today. Um, I guess like just to like kick it off, and like usually what I let people do is like give us kind of like the 30-second, like not just like what you do, but why. Like how'd you guys get into making basically what is like frozen cottage cheese?
Yeah, 2 years ago, I was training for a marathon, was craving ice cream, was craving like a sweet treat that could refuel and help me recover, something preferably with high protein, and I couldn't find it, so I started making it myself out of cottage cheese. So the why behind it is to help people live happier, healthier lives, and we're doing that through FroCo. So it's like giving people a better alternative or a different alternative, a more enjoyable alternative than a protein shake, a protein bar, or just like a pint of ice cream that's loaded with crap. We're delivering nutritional value and in the form of a sweet treat. Uh, yeah, just helping people just be able to bounce back after a long day of training and giving them more options.
I love that. Drew, why are you here? Like what how'd you guys get
Yeah.
connected?
Yeah, Joe and I met right before COVID, I want to say. We both had clothing companies in New York and we were just building our small brands in the city and we quickly became friends. We would meet regularly and kind of share how our business building's going. And on one of our like quarterly catch-ups, we're having coffee up in Harlem and Joe's telling me about how he's been making this FroCo while he's been training and sharing it with some people, and it's gotten some good receptivity. And I'm like, I kind of worked in a venture capacity in my day job, so I was just thinking through the lens of like desirability and differentiation, and I'm like, that sounds so differentiated. If you've cracked the code on a nutrient dense ice cream, like take every iron out of the fire and bet on that horse. And uh, Joe was like, okay, you want to do the same and join me. And we basically committed in that moment to try and get the product on shelf the following summer. And we did that via the fancy food. I'm sure Joe and will naturally kind of talk more about that launch. But my why, I'm not a marathoner, but I am a new parent, and I am like super conscientious about when he's old enough to start eating solid foods, like what do I give him? And growing up for me, like ice cream was very simple. It was choose vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. And you were trusted that it was probably two or three ingredients, and that's all you were getting. And over the last 30 plus years, it's just become how much crap can we shove in these pints and still call it ice cream? So for me, like the product Joe was making in his kitchen was one that resonates both for me personally and for like my growing family. So I'm just super excited about the new wave that's happening in CPG generally, and I'm excited that we're doing it in the frozen category where there's not as much, I would say truly clean options.
Yeah. Also, less innovation in general, although recently that's changing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, do you guys have like a take on that? Like why has it been that like I mean there has been innovation in ice cream. Like there's Halo Top, there's like the low calorie thing, which that's fine. There's people that have tried the protein thing. I mean, there's like Van Leeuwen and Jenny's, like the people that make like I guess what you'd call like more premium like ice cream, like more all natural, but like ice cream's been ice cream for a long time, and it feels like nobody's really cracked the code in the grocery store except for that little pop Halo Top had for a moment where they knocked Ben and Jerry's off and then they fizzled and died. So, like, do you guys have a opinion on it? Like, why do you think so many people have tried and failed?
Yeah, I mean innovation, I think we're seeing these two worlds of thought, right? You have this lab-based driven, like how can we hack the system and do it in a lab? And then you have the other, on the flip side of that same coin, is like, how can we take that holistic approach that's a little bit more natural, a little bit more like human, a little bit more tied to the earth, simplistic, right? So you have like the David bars of the world that is just, how can we deliver the most juicy macros, and then you have the Jacob bar of the world where like, how can we deliver the most nutritional value within the ingredients. So I think innovation, it's been cool to see people innovate in this natural realm and this scientific realm. um, there's competitors that are also in the high protein category that are in that science realm. I feel like we're more in that natural realm of like, how can we use ingredients that pack a nutritional punch and do it in a novel way? Like, to me, innovation in CPG comes in three different ways. You have the product itself. For us, it's cottage cheese and ice cream. It's a novel ingredient. Two, you have a novel form factor. For liquid death, it's water in a can, or Graza, it's olive oil in a squirt bottle. And then the third is you have an innovative brand, something like Good Girl Snacks with their Hot Girl Pickles. Um, so those three, if like, innovation isn't just like Halo Top is like, let's do the least amount of calories and call it ice cream. Innovation comes from a couple different areas, in my opinion. I think a good brand does at least two out of those three. A great brand does all three. And it's, yeah, I think people want that innovation because of this whole, the Maha movement is top of mind for people. Let's get back to just being healthier.
Totally. And, Jimmy says all the time, I've seen it in so many decks that he's written, chef driven, not lab driven. And I was going to say that it comes from, this perspective that at the end of the day, no matter how many ways you differentiate the product, right, flavor wins, right? And that means that creating food that tastes good first and then fills the other kind of differentiating factors next really, really matters. And that's like Jimmy's whole mantra. Like he keeps shouting that over and over again over the years.
Yeah, I mean, you have like a world more and more, I guess, like you'd mentioned this true, like when we were growing up, where people are very focused on like, how can we like kind of innovate our way out of whatever issue it is? And a lot of the times in the food industry, that got driven into price, I think. They're like, let's create the cheapest formula possible, the highest gross margin that tastes basically the same. And that's like a lab experiment. And in my mind, I was always like, attracted to the idea. This sounds so ridiculous, but like Brussels sprouts used to suck. And then when I was probably in like late high school, like early college, chefs started experimenting with the Brussels sprout as like basically a conduit for like cheese and oil, and like everyone's had Brussels sprouts at a good restaurant, and you're like, that's insane. I think that's like a guy going and saying like, okay, I'm gonna like innovate on this thing, similar to what you did, Joe, where you're like, yo, I have a need. I'm gonna go to my kitchen. I'm gonna whip up a recipe that I think like hits for me. And it's like, yeah, anybody can be a chef at that point. And I don't like, no disrespect, actual chefs will probably want to punch me in the face after that. But like, I think that anybody can create and invent new recipes in their own kitchen. And I think that like the most authentic things come from that. If you even read the story of like Ora Bora, like their co-founders started making Ora Bora in their kitchen with like a soda stream because they were just trying to make like more interesting like seltzers, like sparkling water. And it's like, yeah, you like sometimes like that's where the best ideas come from. And it's cool that you guys like authentically like kind of came from that place. At least in my mind. I think that's where success is built.
Yeah, it's solving your own need, and I think not being a chef, not being classically trained, it allows you to think outside the box of like, there were no rules. Like, man, I've never fucking made ice cream before. So for me, it's like I don't have to follow the rules of what ice cream needs to be and how we need to make it. And that's a lot of happy accidents happened. Like we use collagen instead of a gum or a stabilizer, and it's a nutritional, it adds to the nutritional value of our product. And I think with the wave of UGC, people taking cottage cheese out of the tub and putting it into a different food and making it a different form factor versus just eating cottage cheese out of the tub. It's like that, having that novelty and creating content out of it. Just like an iPhone made everybody a photographer, I think social media has made everybody some sort of chef in the way like they want to get creative, they want to they want to eat something a little bit more healthy, so that means they're going to choose the ingredients they're going to use in a food that is like a healthy Snickers bar, right? So yeah, it's been interesting to watch.
Definitely. So you come up with this recipe, you get some traction in your internal community, you have your co-founder Drew, right? What was the next step after, like, we've got something here, we've got an interesting product, an interesting idea?
After, yeah, I mean, once Drew and I decided, like, all right, let's go for it. Like the step after was how can we sprint as fast as we can um, to get this on shelf. Like we officially made the decision in like December of 23, and then we knew like summer of 24 is going to be our year of like we're launching, we're going to make it happen. So it was just a mad dash of okay, how can we perfect the formula? How do we get retailers on board, distribution on board? And for like Drew alluded to, like fancy food was our sort of deadline of making it all happen. And yeah, it was just prioritizing speed over perfection and making sure that like we we had two rules. We had two check boxes that we wanted to check off. We wanted to launch in the summer because it's ice cream season, and two, we wanted to be the first cottage cheese ice cream or the first FroCo. So we wanted to make sure that we had time to build our moat, and for that, it required speed.
How did the how was the reception at the at Fancy Food? How'd that go for you? Because that was kind of the like make or break. That was your deadline. That's what you were running toward, right? How was the audience reception? How did that go for you guys?
From my point of view, not, I think being a little bit more objective, just not having invented it, just kind of coming on board, sort of treating it like an experiment at the time. Like, how do we validate this quickly and effectively? It was pretty surreal. We had day one, we just kind of had the organic people coming up, very positive feedback. And then day two, it was as if every single person we met day one brought three more friends to come meet our product. And then day three, which is usually the dead day where people are just wrapping up and giving away or collecting samples, we were the brand to see or the booth to see before you leave. So we were just swarmed, and that was all stakeholders. That was retail, that was PR, that was dairy and innovation, and like sort of the incumbents, if you will. And then obviously content creators and customers. So it was just really validating to know that we had a product that resonated across all those, and it was just a matter of okay, now we have to focus on feasibility and viability. Like this is desired, this is something that people want, the market opportunity is there. Now can we actually effectively scale it, and can we do so in a way that's profitable? And like that's sort of what this like 15 months has been, preceding or following that, which was okay, let's move our production to California to increase scale, quality, decrease cost. Let's change warehousing partners to decrease overhead. Let's do everything that we can, like look at every single element of our business and every lever that we have control over to find a way to either increase quality, increase scale, or decrease costs. So that's sort of what we've been actively doing. All the while, Joe's quietly building a massive community online, and obviously not forgetting that we have customers and a brand to build at the same time. So it's
And
been
Yeah,
to,
when you guys think about that like dichotomy of like you got to build it, and Joe and I had actually talked about this in private before, but like you got to like build this hype train. And CPG is interesting because like you got to build this thing, this demand pool, like what you guys did at Fancy Food. But then you also on the other side of it, I feel like every entrepreneur actually almost across businesses. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Like different than the clothing brands that you built or the other things that you'd worked on before, you're now like in the frozen supply chain. So like yeah, you got to build brand, you got to build hype, but on the flip side, everything you said, Drew, and more. Like the most complicated supply chain on earth, really easy to mess up, very expensive, very scary. At least the shelf life is long.
yeah,
like, like,
exactly.
like, how do you guys balance that dichotomy? You guys could pick who goes first, but like, I'm interested to hear like your thoughts on it.
mm, yeah, is it hard? Sure, yeah, it's hard But I think when you're so deeply aligned with your purpose in life and, your ikigai, if you will, like, uh, it's what keeps you going. It's like the challenge is fun. People like, oh, it's really hard. You're gonna have problems. Whatever. It's like, yeah, but we signed up for this. This is the path we like. This is. I just feel so aligned with this is what I'm supposed to be doing that yeah, like the hard days are really difficult and I've never been more stressed, but I've never had more fun and I've never been more fulfilled, right? So I think like choose your hard is so true. What hard do you want? Like every aisle of the grocery store is going to be difficult to build and like I think we're the perfect people for the mission. And you know what? If that is the barrier to entry, so be it. But I think at the end of the day, someone had to do it. Someone had to make a cottage cheese based ice cream, and we'd be darned if it wasn't us. So yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, there's hurdles, but over time, as you get your reps in, and as you play the real time, fast paced chess match that is entrepreneurship, you start seeing in real time this 4D battle, and when you know where your pieces are, you can play them properly. And the more you play the game, the better you get. It's literally a video game. Like you don't know what's in front of you until it's like driving 1,000 miles per hour on a winding country road, and there's fog, and you have headlights on that are reflecting back, but you can only like 10 yards get revealed in front of you at a time. And the further you go, the more it reveals. And once you round that turn, the next turn reveals itself. So it's just a real time chess war.
I don't know how to follow up that. I'm usually the analogous thinker and spewing some random thoughts like that. Joe, I think that was pretty freaking well said. I mean, like I go back to your earlier question, which is like, why haven't we seen so much innovation other than Halo Top? And I think it's because of what we just described. Like, you not only have to build a brand, but you have to understand and solve for the frozen chain. Those are like both taking two of the hardest 400 level courses at the same time, plus your all your other credits, and then you're expected to also be the face of campus. It's a tough thing to do, right? And like I think that's what's helpful about having a co-founder relationship. Like we can divide and conquer, or we can row together. And it's just like really easy for you to get discouraged in this. Like I could not imagine being a solo founder because it's like there are people that are gonna shit on you, even when you have a great thing in front of you. And it's just I think it's easier to get discouraged, and that could be on the brand or the logistics side. I at the very onset, this was like early stage concept. I don't even think we were in market yet. We weren't in market yet. I was just meeting with everyone I could, get a hold of. And this woman who was an early stage CPG investor from kind of a more institutional background, I tell her what we're building or what we're planning to build. Her very first response was, "What else you got?"
Mm.
She's like,
Okay.
I spent some time in Frozen. It's so hard. Like, what else do you have?" And like most people probably would have said, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's find fertile soil elsewhere. And Joe is like complete opposite. Joe's like, okay, let's run through that wall, because we already know so many people are quitting at mile one, and then it's going to get harder at mile five, and more people will quit. And I think we both just have that like mindset of like we're going to endure and we're going to push forward because we just know at the other end of it there are people that actually want this product. And that kind of goes back to your comment, or Daniel, around taste. Like we know we have like my favorite soundbite from Newtopia was from one of the founders of Leisure. He was having our peanut butter, I think, and he just turns to us and he goes, "I don't understand why you would eat ice cream after having this. Like, why would I have ice cream? It's way worse for me, and it tastes the exact same. Like, and look, a lifetime ice cream eater might not say it's the exact same. So I want to caveat that, but like, man, is it the benefit is so outweighs. So yeah, I just like that keeps me optimistic. If I didn't truly believe that one, people love this, and two, the world needs it, then I think that those discouraging moments would compound, and it would be easy to say, let's fold this. But
Yeah, you got to
Yeah, I
throw your
mean,
yeah,
plan B out the window. The plan B, you cannot have a plan B because if you have something to fall back on, you can't hedge your bets.
someone
You
read
know,
Burn the Boats recently.
burn the boats. Yeah, literally, you have to burn the boats. And I think uh, Drew and I both getting reps in as clothing brands. It was Drew often says it was very theatrical. I think it's great to start a clothing brand as a young entrepreneur. You learn so much about the game, but it's easy to build a brand, a clothing brand. You know what I mean? You could slap a logo on a T-shirt, call it a brand, but the game of entrepreneurship is the true barrier to entry. Like you have to love the game. It's I think now today's day and age, it's if you're a savvy content creator, it's easy to build a brand and build some hype. But are you gonna are you gonna be waking up early? Are you gonna be staying up late? Are you gonna be you know, Drew and I have spent 10 hours at our R&D facility, literally making flavors of ice cream in a hot freaking kitchen in the middle of the summer with no air conditioning. Are you going to do that? You know what I mean? So like the game of entrepreneurship is hard. It's not easy, and that is like if you're willing to endure that, then I think there's you could tip the odds of success in your favor.
Totally. I just want to jump in here with something. So I noticed you guys kind of have this dynamic where you've got Drew kind of being your ops guy, right? Being the execution guy. You've got Joe being the creative, the brand builder. So many of the best brands that I've seen, the best businesses that I've seen kind of follow this model. Jimmy and Megan, right? Jimmy's the ops guy, the guy on the ground. Megan is the person who does the creative, the brand, the social, right? Building the demand. Even me and my brother Kai, right? With our business. So a lot of times when you have like a family, Jimmy and Megan, me and my brother, you have kind of that built-in co-founder relationship, and that doesn't always exist. You guys clearly found each other at some point and figured out that hey, we've got this synergy. When did that happen? And what kind of gave you that first signal when you guys were like starting to build your relationship? But hey, we actually have this kind of dynamic that could work for us.
yeah. And maybe I'll jump in because I just remember we don't share this publicly often, but we actually met in the DMs. Joe had his clothing company, Rocky Clark, and I remember following it. Maybe it was on my For You or something. And I could tell it was a small operation, but it was presented as such a bigger brand. First of all, he was doing cut and sew, which I would say 99% of brands today aren't doing cut and sew, and I was too at the time. I said, hey, like I really love what you're building. Like keep it up. Like if you ever need a soundboard or something, it was like a very simple thing like that. And then we ended up having a phone call, and then that turned into coffee meetings. And I think we quickly realized like we're cut from a similar cloth. Like we're definitely the type that are curious and insatiably curious and like want to be like a modern day Renaissance man in ways like Joe sews like his own garments to this day. He was an apparel design major. I'm not quite as good, but I've sewed a couple of fun things like this coaster and like just like love kind of um so I think we're both sort of like T-shaped individuals, if you're familiar with that like thinking. But what's awesome is Joe has a deep domain experience in brand marketing, brand strategy. And then I'm, a finance major, worked in consulting for 6 years, worked in corporate strategy for 4 years. So I have kind of more of that like true business model experience. And so I sort of own finance. He owns marketing, but I would say we actually share operations. Like Joe does a lot more of the day-to-day execution where I do more of like the forecasting and so like I don't think you need to draw the hardest lines in the sand. I think early on it's helpful to understand different facets of the business. Um, but I do think it's important to have sort of a complementary skill set and maybe more often than that, like a complementary like risk lens. And I've brought this up on a podcast once before, but I think too often if you're thinking the exact same way and you're both jump in head first on everything, like that's going to be a really dangerous relationship. And I think Joe and I provide like really strong checks and balances on each other in all decisions. Um, I'd say it's probably true that more often than not, I'm the guardrail and he's the race car, but there are definitely times where it's the opposite. And I think the accountability piece is the most important part. Like we have this iron sharpens iron mentality, and we are very candid about when one of us isn't doing enough. I would say more often than not, that's me as a new father and having a lot on my plate outside of this. But Joe's like I think you have to be like somewhat inspirational with your partnership, or like you. It's like easy to, I think, in all relationships in life, to take a tough situation and either point a finger or get angry, and I think that just never solves anything. The alternative is to identify what's going on and then like inspire action, and that's sort of just like how we've always worked, which is what was trying to pinpoint what's happening and trying to actively work through it, as opposed to like any unproductive dialogue around what could have, should have been. And like I would just say over time, like we've gotten even better at that, which is exciting. Like I genuinely feel like we can run through any any wall at this point.
Yeah, I remember early on in Drew and I's relationship, it started out as like there was zero competition between our clothing brands. It was just, you know, we were in the same world in the garment district, and as we, you know, got to know each other, like there was a point where we wanted to work on a project together. I think we wanted to make a rugby shirt, rugby polo, and we wanted to collaborate on it. And for whatever reason, like it just felt. I think COVID hit, and it was just like, what the fuck are we? How are we gonna do this during COVID? But it was more of like, all right, like I'll catch you on the next one. Like we'll collaborate, we'll work on a project together sometime down the line. And I think like just leaving that door open allowed for, uh, yeah, just like that collaboration to naturally happen.
You
Which
guys mentioned risk
I still,
taking.
sorry, Jimmy, I still have that
Oh yeah,
fabric sitting in the back. So maybe the rugby shirt will happen over time.
yeah. How do you not have the rugby shirt? At this point, you guys should make the rugby shirt and put the Smearco brand on it. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. No, I was gonna ask you guys like Drew mentioned risk taking. I feel like Daniel and I talk about this a lot, on the podcast and private all the time. Like we're kind of like degenerate gamblers. There's an influencer that Daniel follows on Instagram. Or is he a YouTuber? There's a
Well,
YouTuber you
everything.
follow. Yeah, dude, like just gambles. He gambles all his money away for the views, and it's hilarious. But he's like, dude, we're not that far off from this guy. Like, we can't be. I mean, like, I hate gambling. This is why it's funny. Like, I despise gambling. I won't do it. I'll play poker because I feel like I have control, and I'll clearly start businesses because I also feel as though I have some kind of control or whatever it is, whatever I use to delude myself. But like, as far as like risk profile, I mean, you guys have been entrepreneurs for a while. This is like technically second act for both of you, or maybe third. I don't know how many businesses you all have had, but like, uh, do you feel like your risk tolerance has gone up or down over time? And then like Drew, I don't blame you for being the guardrails because like I like you also have a new baby. It does make you more like slow this thing down. Mine is the third. My first, by the way, was born in March of 2020 when we were like kind of
Oh
like
wow.
gun to the head, had to like we had to pivot, we had to take some like risks. I feel like if COVID hadn't happened, I would have actually become like way less risky. Because it just kind of like forced me to like, you got to act, you got to do something. So risk is like on the table. But like, how do you guys think about risk? How do you think about like risk when it comes to like this company? And like, do you think you've become more risky or less risky over time?
The safest bet you'll make is on yourself. To me, there's no risk in that. Like I was just looking on my LinkedIn and I just noticed like I've been at a startup that uh that I have ownership in longer than a startup I was at where I ended up getting laid off. You know? That was a bigger risk to put my trust into a different CEO. Like I put all my trust in myself that like, man, put my back against the wall. I don't even need a flotation device. Like I will swim. So yeah, I think there's no risk in betting on yourself. In terms of like risk tolerance, it's funny. Like I never thought of myself as a risk taker. In terms of, I'm not really an adrenaline junkie. I don't gamble, but I just love entrepreneurship. I love betting on myself. And when it comes to like risk tolerance, like yeah, most of my portfolio is in Bitcoin, but you know what? It's the safest asset
This
out there.
guy, this guy says he doesn't like to gamble. I was expecting you to just be like, look, man, I own a lot of Dogecoin. There's a pile of it in my wallet right now. No, I love that. It's true. Like we betting on yourself, it feels very riskless. It does. I mean, Daniel, I know you have similar like thoughts around this. Like you, Daniel recently was told by our entire friend group, like, please don't start a new business, and he just proceeded to do it anyways. Um, and it ended up being like, a pretty big success. But like, I think betting on yourself, like, kind of when you're in the driver's seat, you probably know best, and you know you're going to swim.
I think just kind of piggybacking off what Jimmy said there, right? Your perspective is unique. No one has your eyes. No one sees what's in front of you. And because of that, they can't assess the risk the same way you can. So for me, when I was starting this pizza truck business, I had seen a really unique kind of golden opportunity, and no one could really see the risk profile like I could. I realized, hey, there's a CapEx opportunity here. It used to be, 15, 20K for an oven. Now it's 1,000, right? There's not enough pizza trucks to meet demand. I'm in the food trucking game every day. I see it with my eyeballs. I was like, this is a no-brainer. All I have to do is learn to make pizza. That's really hard, by the way. So just as a
You're talking,
caveat. But yeah,
you're talking to two Italians right here.
nice, very nice. I like it. Yeah. So if you guys come to Nashville, please try my pizza. But all that aside, yeah, I think the more you do this, the longer you're in the game, the more reps you get, the more risk tolerance you build, right? And I think that's really important because at some point you have to have days where you're okay with the bank account going negative when that's temporary. It'll be fine, right? I know Drew's probably grimacing when I say that because he's the finance guy, but you have to be able to build that risk tolerance a little bit because that's just the way it goes, And especially during COVID, I think a lot of us were tested in that way. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I think as you get more reps in and as you see more of the world and that perspective widens, like you put yourself in a position to like your risk exposure decreases, right? Like because like early on, like in the clothing company days, like we made so many mistakes. Like ordered, I think our very first order was 1,000 of the same unit. And I was just like, oh, like I know enough people. I'll sell 1,000 of these button downs. Like, and and so I really quickly learned the lesson of how having all of your money tied up in inventory doesn't really allow you to do anything else, right? And like that's just one of a million lessons you learn on the journey. And I think like so often people are um, yeah, I mean, their risk tolerance or whatever it is, stops them from taking the first step. But it's like in each of those steps and tumbles is where you learn, and then you're actually more equipped to deal with risk or problems. Like I think, just generally speaking, Joe and I aren't intimidated by like problems that may or may not come up because we know we can sort of navigate them. We've seen them. Like you start to like learn the flavors, different flavors of things that can go wrong. So you're better positioned to actually avoid them. And then when they do happen, you're better positioned to actually quickly solve and pivot. And I think some people are just wired differently. I think there's a generational divide. Like the baby boomers, sons and daughters of Great Depression era parents, like they're wired so much differently. They're like about loyalty to the company because they know like you can go starving. So they're very much like, hey, if you have a paycheck and you have a steady opportunity, like take it. You'd be a fool not to. Um, and that's literally passed on from having parents who lived through the Great Depression. And I think I hate generalizations, but I think that is true to some degree. And I think our generation, Gen Z, like the world is their oyster. So they're a little bit more apt to go forth because they've maybe not seen as much hardship. Um, I don't know. I just the last thing I'll say is like I remember when I very first started, I was having a heated discussion with my mother about like this new opportunity that and wanting to jump in and like, well, I said to her, I was like, well, what do you know about ice cream? And she goes, nothing. That's why I'm not building an ice cream brand, and you shouldn't either. And I'm like, again, like another moment discouraging, like where a lot of people would probably say, okay, like back to the drawing board. But I was sort of the mindset like no, it's because I don't know anything. It's the same thing back to like just being the ignorant chef in the kitchen because you don't know anything you take like a unique lens to it, and then also just sharing with the world that you're doing something. People come out of the woodwork to help you and get like people love seeing people get up a learning curve and being a part of that journey. So it's just like why would you not like I don't know.
Dude, I love that story so much just because like I watched Megan. So like my wife Megan, her family is like a family of entrepreneurs, right? Her parents owned a business. Her dad literally has never worked for anybody else. Like from 18 on, like had his own thing. Super successful, like did really, really well. I watched her dad attempt to talk her out of no baked, which was the most fascinating thing I've ever seen to this day. I mean, I had interactions with my dad that like my dad was a firefighter. Uh, at one point, like my dad did have a small business when we were growing up, and he had to file bankruptcy, so like lost everything. Continued to be a firefighter, but like he learned the hard. He got burned, right? So like when he tries to talk me out of it, it was like, yeah, dude, like of course, like you think being an entrepreneur is a bad idea. But watching Megan's parents try to talk her out of it made me just realize, like, dude, you, no matter who they are, like it is a generational thing for sure. So it's fascinating you had that interaction with your mom.
Yeah. I want to pivot the conversation just a little bit and talk about flavors. You kind of start talking about flavors there, Drew, so I kind of want to piggyback on that. What flavors have you guys developed so far that are out there in the market, and maybe what's coming, what you're developing right now?
Our thesis on flavors is like let's do the classics, let's do them really well. Uh, yeah, Jerez is saying like it's been a competition of how many brownies and cookies and crab you can pack in a pint. Like that's not us. We want to keep our ingredient list super short, recognizable, clean. We're gluten free. The chocolate we use is soy free. The peanut butter we use is seed oil free. So that's like super important to us. Um, Making it like that's where health lives is the ingredient list, and then the macros are sort of just a result of that people are starting to catch on to. So the flavors that we launched were vanilla, peanut butter, and mocha joe, which is a coffee chip, and our thinking behind that was like one, let's keep them classic, but how can we think about our product not through the lens of like this is ice cream for dessert after dinner on the couch before bed. Like this is something you can eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So you have a coffee for morning, you have a peanut butter for lunch, you have a vanilla for after dinner. And now we're about to launch a strawberry flavor, which is incredible, just like refreshing, light, super clean, no food dyes, no BS, and then we're gonna follow that up with a chocolate. And then we've also played around with mint chip, but like we want to do the ones that sell. Like as a small brand, we have to hit a home run with every flavor. Um, and like yes, we can do a cookies and cream or a cookie dough, but that adds complexity to the supply chain, and also it's damn near impossible to find a clean inclusion. So we've just stayed away from that. It's not the game we want to play right now. But that's sort of how we're thinking about it, is like the ones that sell, the classics you love. Let's nail those, and then let's see what our community of case heads decides.
I love this because the insane thing you just said was we want people to eat ice cream around the clock, and I'm just like, yes, that is incredible. I will eat ice cream at all times of the day. I'm about that. So the fact that you guys are building an ice cream brand that's like built for eating at from 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. That's fantastic. I'm definitely going to buy some of this because yeah, I love that thinking. That's fantastic. Ice cream should be all hours of the day.
Yes.
Well, because of what you guys are doing, it can be all hours of the day. I mean, that I have this argument with my kids on a daily basis, and not this kid because she doesn't eat ice cream. Although she's tried it. Uh, I like to introduce them to ice cream first. It's usually right around like 5, 6 months old. Everybody, please troll me for it. But ice cream has been the first food for all three kids. No, my kids want to eat ice cream at like 10 a.m. and I'm like, nah, dude, that's not what we do. That's weird. Daniel knows this. I'm like a big health nut. Like, I don't vibe with that. Yes, I sell cookie dough, guys, and my kids eat cookie dough, but it's not at 10 in the morning. I love that you guys are building something where it's like I wouldn't feel bad telling my daughter like sure like what I've been doing recently is I'll have them like I'll be like dude you can't have ice cream but like just go eat like we have like fruit popsicles that are like straight up like made of fruit that we made and I'm like you can eat those if you want something cold just stop with the ice cream in the morning. So you guys are solving a real problem, at least for me.
That's like extremely encouraging to hear. I think like as far as like use cases around consuming FroCo, like that's the thing I'm most bullish on is the velocities are fairly low for ice cream because they're so inherently bad for you. No right-minded person is going to say, I'm going to have this every day. But if you look at our ingredient list and our macros, blending a Mocha Joe pint and downing that is actually a lot better for you than having a frappuccino. And so I think it's a tough thing. Like I remember the very first sample pint, I was having it with my wife on the couch, and she eats half of it. She goes, "Take this away from me," and I'm like, "No, you can eat the whole thing. That is the entire point of this." And she was like, "Oh yeah," and then grabbed it back and immediately finished it. And
That's
I was like,
amazing.
"Okay, like this is a really interesting learning moment. Like we have a little bit of an uphill battle to get people." Accustomed to the fact that like this isn't ice cream, even though it tastes like ice cream. But yeah, I think we're very bullish about it, changing that tide. And I think cereal's done it. So that's like the use case I point to. Like cereal, historically a breakfast food, not necessarily an aspirational food. Wheaties made it aspirational a million years ago. And then more recently, people are recognizing like it's an okay snack before bed. At least they think that, I'm not going to argue. But I think like we actually like given our label and our nutritionals, like we actually are a good option for all times of the day. So it's pretty exciting.
I actually have a question about that. Because I know the macro profile on your stuff is good. I've never looked at like total calories. Like, is there like what's the difference between that and like normal pint of ice cream, like calorie wise?
About half. We say it's about half. Our vanilla is 450, and then our peanut butter is our most caloric because there's peanut butter in it, and that's 570. And your tub of the bad guys is going to be 800 to 1200. So
Yeah.
yeah, we like to say it's about half.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are killing it there. I mean, I look at that and I feel like this is a good topic to get into with you guys, but like people in general, not only do they eat like the wrong things because they're just searching for what people do is they eat too much stuff. And so they like search for things that will quote unquote make them healthier because they'll eat more of it. Like I need to eat more protein. I need to eat more like I don't know what it is. Fiber is probably a bad example because you do need to eat more fiber. But like they'll pick a macro or like some kind of micronutrient. They'll try to max on it. They'll try to max on a bunch of them, and then they just end up eating too many calories or like just too much stuff. And I feel like having products like your guys is such a solve because like I imagine, and I don't know this because I haven't had your ice cream, which makes me very upset. Um, it really does. I love ice cream. Um, like it's one of those things where like I'd eat like a pint of that and then I would be like I'm not eating anything else. This is like wow, I'm good with this. I feel like the more that we give people foods that they actually like, the more it's like, hey, I'm not going to overeat. I'm not going to go out searching for all these like random like healthy things to eat. Because the sad part is that people don't necessarily say like, oh, I'm going to eat healthier and then eat a bunch of whole foods. They do is they go out and look for like a bunch of processed junk. No offense, David, like to David's bars or anything like that, but it's like that's what they end up eating. And it is so easy to overeat on calories on that kind of stuff because it too is a processed food designed to make you eat more of it.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that the world has become a Jersey diner menu. It's freaking endless. The options are endless, and we're inundated with information and conflicting opinions. Somebody tells us this, the other side tells us the complete opposite. I think you have to do your own research and you have to understand what how you operate best. You know, like I've experimented with so many different foods and diets, and I'm a very intuitive eater. I don't, believe in any sort of thing, but I think you need to find out for yourself what works for you. Is it higher protein? Is it higher fat? Do you do well with steak or chicken or seafood? But like people are they want to listen to an answer versus solve it for themselves. But I think the future of health and wellness is that holistic approach where everything in moderation, don't overeat on something specific, like you said, Jimmy. Uh, yeah, it's unfortunate that people just want a prescriptive sort of quick fix, but they're not willing to just get back to the basics. Single ingredient whole foods will be the ultimate health food, and I think that's where our product comes in. It's minimally processed. We're using whole foods, real foods, nothing artificial. It it it's not like the perfectly solved macro, but like at the end of the day, we're human. So we love treating ourselves, but I think the day and age of value being in the dollar is over. I think people want nutritional value and they're willing to pay for that.
I completely agree with that. And also, like, you can look, like, I don't know, you can look at like just the general situation in like the United States, and like the situation is, and I saw this on a LinkedIn post, so no, I don't know if this is a fact. Feel free to fact check me. But I heard that the average American eats 3,800 calories a day. And we produce even more than that. And it's like when I was training for my Ironman, I was burning 3,500 calories a day, supposedly, according to my Aura ring. Don't know if that's real. But like if you look at that, you're like, okay, well, you guys just eat too much food. Like maybe the first step one is eat less. And it's easier to eat less when you're eating things that are tasty, and especially when you're eating whole foods, because I've never seen someone eat too much like chicken, broccoli. It, you could eat too much steak, but you'd feel like terrible afterwards. I mean, like you're not going to eat 3,800 calories of those things a day. That's insane. It would be actually hard, like genuinely. And I think the more foods you introduce like that, honestly, probably the better. And there's a place for like good food. There's a place for processed food. Daniel sells empanadas and pizza and like all this other stuff. But like, no, people aren't just like rolling up to your food truck. I mean, it'd be cool if they were, but they're not rolling up to your food truck every hour of the day, like buying that stuff. And again, like when they buy for it, they pay like top dollar for it. And like maybe it is time to start saying like, hey, you guys maybe want like more valuable food experiences rather than like cheaper food.
Absolutely. I had a question about Drew. You mentioned, velocity. You're excited about it because it's kind of been, all hours of the day kind of product, which is really cool. Does that affect long term, like skew pack size? So, at some point, I could see this being something that, little kids are eating for breakfast, right? That's kind of the idea. That's where we want to go. That's where the brand goes once the education hits. Are you eventually going to do 12 packs of this in Costco and Sam's Club, right? Like to where we can, have a family size pack where they can eat it for breakfast 3 days a week or something?
Yeah, I would say we're constantly having the discussion of like what other form factors can we solve for. I think we've gone in with the mindset of starting the brand with pints for two reasons. One, it's easier to get line time as a pint brand. Like it's just a tried and true form factor. And then it's easier to lead with pints and then create other opportunities from there as opposed to lead with some niche item and then try and get into the business of selling pints. So yeah, I think that this the I'm being intentionally ambiguous because I don't want to overshare because our retailers are going to hold us accountable to getting that next innovation out. But yeah, we're actively talking about what does the next SKU look like aside from just new flavors.
Nice. And where are you guys currently? Like what retail chains you're on the shelves of currently?
Yeah, so Whole Foods and Sprouts are our two biggest and best natural accounts. We're tri-state area for Whole Foods and Florida for Sprouts, looking to expand hopefully next year. And then we're also in a lot of localized retailers like DeChico's, Morton Williams, ShopRite. And then, obviously got to cite some of the ones that bet on us earlier, Happier Grocery, Pop Up Grocer, Park Slope Co-op. And then we're also on GoPuff, DoorDash, if you live out in Queens, or the Bronx. And then, yeah, our list is on our Instagram. You can find it there. We just launched in Nashville. Super excited about that. We just got a retailer in South Carolina, and we are launching in Salt Lake City soon. So,
Where'd you guys
pretty
launch in
cool.
Nashville?
Turnip truck.
Let's go, Daniel. Go down there right now and buy some.
Getting some today.
Buy some and
Yeah,
save it
buy
for me.
buy all of it, please.
I'm gonna be in Nashville next week. Because I am officially, hopefully, selling my house. And I'm gonna buy a
Nice,
bunch of it.
exciting.
Uh, yeah, dude, that's awesome. I love to hear that. I had told Joe like one of the more frustrating things I've found, and I find it frustrating. I don't think it's hard. Frustrating things about CPG is like the speed at which you can get into doors or like distribution. Like especially in our categories, like anything refrigerated or frozen, it just moves a little slower. As far as like getting onto the shelf, getting in the distributor, making it happen, people just kind of take their time. And like when people take their time, like outside of all the entrepreneurs working in the space, it's frustrating because like we like to go fast. I would love to see, I would love to see your product in Bozeman, Montana, but you would have to be in, I guess like the Unify has a DC in like Washington, I think, Ridgefield. Get into the Ridgefield DC, so then I can walk down to my local version of the turnip truck and yell at the buyer. I wouldn't yell at him; he's my friend. But yeah, I'd love to be able to like walk down the street and buy it. But yeah, man, it's frustrating because it's like this should be everywhere. But such is the way of like a physical like frozen product, I guess.
Yeah, in due time we'll be everywhere. What's the Bozeman equivalent of turnip truck?
It's called Town and Country Foods.
Town and
Dude,
country food?
there's a equivalent of like that store for I think every city. Like something
Sure.
like that. They've got between like three, maybe two, like usually it's like two to like call it like 30 stores, sometimes
Yep.
50. There's a great store in St. Louis called Deerberg's. Deerberg's is like a killer account like that. I mean, I've found that my favorite thing about this business has been like traveling places I haven't been before and then seeing the store in real life and then being like, oh shit, that's the store. And then like wanting to go inside and like experience it. Because there are a lot of people like, unfortunately, not in the Southeast, but in many other parts of the country, especially where you guys are at. There's a lot of really cool like independent retailers doing things their own way.
Yeah, we have I would say a top top priority list are those locations. Like Harmon's is the Salt Lake City version, and that's the one we're launching with out in Salt Lake, 20 locations, and it's just trusted by locals. Like this is where I get the best produce, and I know anything else that's packaged, like they're scrutinizing it for me. So it does a lot of legwork for
Dude, yeah,
us.
Harmon's is killer. And they've always been like on the forefront of innovation. They're one of the like first retailers and biggest retailers of edible cookie dough when it first became
Wow.
like a thing. So they didn't just have like one brand, they had a bunch. They actually never bought our brand. But still shout out to them for like innovating on the category. Um, the buyer that would have bought my brand left and he became a broker. And that was a long time ago too. So yeah, I think that like, dude, there's a lot of space out there. I saw a post recently, I guess like to wrap up, like there's this like interesting post I saw from you, Joe, of like you guys had like a box and like the ice cream was all like messed up inside of the box. Got a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. But I found it interesting. So I was like, here he is saying like, hey, it could have been better. And I thought of that when I saw that post, immediately thought of like that type of junk always happens to me when I'm shipping it to a buyer. That's always when it happens to me with like our cookie dough is like the jar is like broken in half somehow. And I'm like, how did you break my jar directly in half? Has that been like the most frustrating thing for you guys as far as like shipping ice cream? Like when you have to ship it to a buyer or customer, like whoever, or is there like another part of the business that's more frustrating than that?
That's
And I
a
wouldn't even define it as hard. It's like frustrating.
It's frustrating, yeah. Like there's just so many you pay. I packed that thing with 10 pounds of dry ice. Spent $100 on overnight shipping. It was in a U-line insulated box. Like checked all the boxes, and then UPS just held the package a little too long, so it just delayed it by another night, and it was in the Texas heat, so it melted. That it's definitely frustrating. That like from early on, Drew and I were like, we're not doing D2C. It's too expensive. Minimums are too high. Like we're going full retail. That's definitely one of the frustrating things. I think the most frustrating thing is like you said, Jimmy, is the speed, man. Like we're at a startup for a reason. I want to see up and to the right growth every single day. And if our partners can't match our speed, then we're getting held back on our potential and our growth. I think that's definitely the most frustrating. Shipping samples is up there. It's time consuming, it's expensive, and there's always that unknown. But yeah, I shared that because I think it's important to share losses. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are nuances to the business that people don't even think about. So I think being transparent and sharing the wins, sharing the losses, sharing the lessons is just so important. And I've been finding that those losses tend to get the most engagement on LinkedIn for whatever reason. I'm not gonna try to share those too often just for the impressions, but it's good to show the people the other side. But Daniel, Jimmy, we appreciate you guys having us on. It was really nice chopping it up with you two.
Yeah, take a moment, even though we're live on LinkedIn right now, so everyone knows where to find you guys. Please tell everyone like where they can find you guys like online. And then like, if you have any like cool, exciting stuff coming up, just like tell us about it. And we'll
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place for the professional, but also Instagram, TikTok at Eat Smearcase. You could also go to smearcase.com. We'll be launching a new website soon. We're launching strawberry this week at Pop Up Grocer. We're announcing that soon on social media. But yeah, we're looking to expand Whole Foods and Sprouts. So be on the lookout for Smearcase over the next couple months.
I'm super excited to be on the lookout for it. Guys, thanks for joining us. LinkedIn, I hope that this live stream wasn't super weird or bad quality. I don't know because I've never done it before. But I think it was great. It was fun for me. And that's what matters. We'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.